Hello, and welcome back to my channel. I'm Adele Ashley. If you're new here, I talk about everything from books to beauty, bullet journaling, and just life in general on my channel, and it is so great to see you. I am so sorry, guys. I feel like I've been fighting a cold for the past little bit. I feel like you could hear it in my voice when I talk, a little bit of congestion, and then also I am so tired today. I don't know why, I just want to sleep all the time. I am so exhausted, but I was determined that I am going to post this video for you guys this weekend and wrap up all my 2023 reading. So we're just gonna power through, but like I said, apologies in advance for how I sound, but let's get into it. So I definitely thought in December that I was going to read all the Christmassy books, all the holiday vibes, and genuinely that did not happen at all. I read a handful of Christmas or holiday books, and then one of them was just really bad and I just could not do it anymore. I gave up and moved back to other books, but then I ended up finishing it out on a really good one, so we'll see. It's a mixed bag of a whole bunch of things that I read through the month of December, but I think we finished with 8 or 9 books that I read. Yeah, somewhere in that range, 8 to 9 for the month. So the first book that I read, this book honestly sent me, but Same Time Next Year by Tessa Bailey, and I generally picked this up thinking that it was going to be this cute little holiday novella, and I ended up really disappointed. It was maybe a 2-star read for me, and that's me being generous. It was 2 stars at most. I used to really like Tessa Bailey books, and I have found that her last few books are just not the same, or almost not good. And after Same Time Next Year, I actually don't know if I'll ever pick up one of her books again. So essentially this book follows Britta, who's an ambitious waitress adored by all, and with a strict no dating policy for hockey boys, who has a soft spot for Sumner, who is a hockey player on the brink of breaking into the NHL. Sumner plays on Britta's half-brother's hockey team, and she finds out on New Year's Eve that his time in the US is coming to an end because his work visa is about to expire. So the team kind of pressures her and proposes to her that she marry Sumner in order to keep him in the United States through the following year, so that his NHL dreams are not given up, because if he doesn't have his work visa, then he will be unable to continue playing for their hockey team, and he would not be able to get it. He would be deported back to Canada, and he would not be able to follow his dream and become an NHL player. And so she agrees to marry him. Sumner has been desperately in love with Britta for the entire time he's known her, and the novella essentially tracks a couple's fake marriage for a year after they say I do. So genuinely, this book would have benefited from a Google search. Miss Bailey, you needed to enter green card marriages into Google and do some research before putting out this book. And I know she had said that she wanted to do a hockey book because there was so much hype around sports romances, and she's like, I want to do one too. And it very much feels like someone who decided to do a book because it was popular and the topic was hyped up, and did zero research whatsoever into this in so many ways. And quite honestly, this book just left me infuriated, and it's only 100 pages long. So the anger I felt while reading this, just because, like I said, Google exists for a reason. Essentially, they get married, interview, and Sumner has his green card within 3 months. It's not how that works. At all. There's a scene where they are like making out beside his truck or her car or whatever in the parking lot of where they have to go for their interview for their green card, and I guess the interviewer walks by and then sees them and is like, oh, you guys definitely love each other, this is not a green card marriage because you guys are making out on this outside. It makes no sense. But 3 months from marriage to green card. Also, Sumner plays for a community rec team. He's not even in like an NHL farm team. So realistically, he would have needed a job regardless to be in the States. Like, you can't play for a community rec team and have that be as your work visa. Like, you're not making money. So it made no sense there. Also, if he was good and playing for a farm team, like, they would have dealt with that visa. Like, front office would have been all over that. He probably would have been on a special talent visa. There's just like really simple things that just don't make this story work. And I don't know what it is, but I find that as I get older or as I read more, I find it harder to like fully take myself out of reality with books. Like, even like the billionaire romances when they're like flying somewhere just for one night, I'm like, the environment, like, you are the money and the fuel and the environment, like, you just burned through it just to get her like her favorite dessert from somewhere, to fly her to this bakery. But that's an aside. I just essentially, I think while I read, and it was really hard for me with this one to be like, this does not make any sense, and because this is supposed to be based in reality, it just wasn't working for me. And then personally, as a Canadian, like, I took offense to this. Like, this, it really was offensive. I don't appreciate how it was made out that being deported to Canada would mean the end of his hockey career and NHL aspirations. No Canadian has ever been afraid of missing out on the NHL by being forced to return to Canada. With Canada, we're kind of known for hockey. It truly, absolutely, like, grinded my gears how they talk about how horrible it would be for this Canadian to be deported back to Canada and how he would not be able to play hockey. We are a country where I know multiple people who are currently waiting for it to get cold enough to flood their backyard so that they could have a skating rink in it. He has no worry about where and when he will be able to play hockey. He could find a rec team, and he definitely, if he was good enough, that would not be a worry. And then, like, kind of the biggest thing is Sumner is a walking red flag. Like, he is obsessed with Britta in this kind of creepy way that is just, like, so weird. He's constantly sexualizing her. He was kind of pathetic and cringy throughout the entire time. He has this weird obsession with her at the very start of the book that just kind of grows. But he has this obsession with her where he flat out says, like, I've barely said any words to her. Like, so he's barely speaking to her, but he's obsessed with her, and he's envisioning their marriage to each other, and how much he wants to marry her and have children with her and everything, and he literally has not spoken to her. And it's just kind of like, ooh, boy, like, tamp it down a little bit. It's weird. It gives major serial killer vibes. Like, if Ted Bundy and Jeffrey Dahmer had a kid, like, it would be Sumner. In this book, like, Britta needs to watch her back is basically how I felt through this entire book. And, you know, saying all of this, like, I'm mad again. Like, this book, I'm actually thinking it's not even a 2-star for me. Like, it's almost like, you know, I want to give you a 0, but I can't. So it's a 1-star. I think we're just 1-starring this book now. The more I talk about it. Like, I read this over a month ago. The more I read it, the more I talk about it, the more I'm like, I can't do this. This is not good. So, 1 star. Just 1 star. After that, I read Maybe Once, Maybe Twice by Alison Rose Greenberg. And this was probably one of the cutest books I read in all of 2023. It follows Maggie Vine, who told 2 different people at 2 different stages in her life that if they were 35 and single, they would get married to each other. And as she approaches her 35th birthday, she's pursuing her dreams of becoming a singer and a mother, yet neither is really working out for her. So at her party for her 35th birthday, Garrett Scholl, a stifled head fund manager by day and aspiring rock singer by night, who she has known for years and kind of had a crush on for years, shows up with the intention to kiss her senseless. And Maggie feels like things can start changing and they start clicking into place until she discovers that Garrett is actually engaged to someone else. And she suspects that she actually won't fit into like this cookie cutter lifestyle that he is building for himself. And then there's Asher Reyes, who is Maggie's first boyfriend from summer camp, who has grown up to become a heartthrob actor. He's widely successful, yet private. Yet after reconnecting with Asher and a career-changing opportunity is presented to her, Maggie begins to feel like maybe everything she wants, like music, love, and family, can be falling into place. I basically like swooned my way through this book. It was a solid 3-star read. I loved everything about it. It's set in a shifting timeline, so you keep jumping back to age 35 for Maggie and what's going on in kind of like real time or the present day, but then you also get snippets of her through different ages. So I think we start at 16 and it goes like her 25th birthday, 26, things that happen at like key points in time through her life with both Asher as well as Garrett. And kind of like those promises that they made to each other, what brought it about, what caused relationships to devolve at certain points. It's just a very kind of like beautiful book, I guess is the only way to describe it. And it really is a story about living your dream, about failing, about loving and pining, about friendship and rejection, about trauma and trying to survive it. Like, it's just a really sweet book that I found myself wanting to know what happens next and who she ends up with at the end, if any of them. And honestly, like, the epilogue I loved so much as well. It just kind of works, and I love, as much as it is a romance, I love how Maggie herself grows from start to finish in this book. So after that, I read Shutout by Avery Keelan, which is the second book in the Rules of the Game series. The first book being Offside, I believe. So it follows Serafina, who changes schools to be closer to her mother, who is currently going through a cancer diagnosis. But Sarah also feels like she's about to hit a breaking point. She has no clue what she wants to do in school, so she's still undeclared in college, and her ADHD is just like doing her no favor. She's really finding it difficult to cope kind of with changes and stress and everything going on in her life. So with nowhere to live, Sarah has no choice but to move in with her brother and his roommates. And Tyler, who is one of her brother's roommates, is also going through a bit of a difficult time, walking the fine line between working hard and burning out. So the pressure for both of them reaches a bit of a boiling point when Sarah moves into the house and Tyler discovers that she actually is that one-night stand he had on Halloween, who has been kind of like in his mind for the past 3 months, and she also is his best friend's little sister. So she is supposed to be off limits. Clearly, that doesn't really work out for them. Honestly, reading this, it was a 4-star book for me. Like, it's really, really character driven, and we see so much growth in both Sarah and Tyler throughout. They actually fit together really well and balance each other out really well, which is nice to see. So kind of as Sarah is spiraling out with something that might happen with ADHD, Tyler's really good at calming her down. As Tyler is getting really stressed out or close to burnout, she kind of balances things out for him. And it was nice to see kind of how that the two of them play off each other in that, and it's not just, oh, he likes to work hard. It's like, this is actually also a problem. Like, burnout is a thing that people go through and is avoidable if you do take steps to like fix it. But I just loved it from start to finish, and it's angsty but not too angsty. It's a sports romance, and then I also really liked how it didn't shy away from things. So a bit of a trigger warning, they do talk about a cancer diagnosis in this, and they do also talk a lot about Sarah getting screened to see if she also is predisposed to getting cancer. And I loved how in depth they talked about it, but also how real it was. Like, the tension was something that actually existed, and 100% it's like why it is something that someone would go through. And I loved how Tyler kind of approached it with her as well. It wasn't just like, oh, like, I'm gonna go get tested to see if I have cancer, then nothing. It very much is like Tyler holds her hand through it. He is there for her. He's supportive. He's just a great boyfriend, but also a really good friend, first and foremost, throughout the entire thing, which was nice to see. After that, I read The Christmas Bookshop by Jenny Colgan. This was a 2-star read for me, and this is the Christmas book that just about made me stop reading anything holiday related. I actually don't remember anything about what happened in this book, even though I read the entire thing. And I really powered through it because, like, it was a struggle, it was a chore, mainly because this was actually my book club was actually picking the second book in this series, Midnight at the Christmas Bookshop, for our book club read for December. And the previous year they'd read The Christmas Bookshop. I hadn't read it, so I figured that I would read The Christmas Bookshop and the second book in the series and be just like fully caught up for our meeting in December. And this book was a struggle for me. Like, I actually did not like a single moment of it from the start. I didn't connect with the characters at all. I did not like the writing style of the author. At one point, I texted a friend and was like, does this author have a thing against women? Like, because people were described repeatedly based on their appearance. So it's like, oh, he has veneers. His big veneer teeth. Oh, this woman goes and gets manicures. She has fake nails. Her fake nails. She has fake nails. Oh, I see her with her fake nails. And it was just kind of like, surely you could describe this woman as something other than like her nails and constantly reminding us that they're fake. Or even, it really stands out. There was a comment about someone getting like facials or Botox and really disparaging comments about it, and it just kind of repeated. Like, it's not like someone throws out the comment and they get kind of like their wrist gets slapped and it's stopped. It's just there. Like, it's just commonplace and okay to make this comment about someone in this world, and I could not do it. Yeah, it felt like a chore reading it. I finished book 1, like I said, barely remember what happened, and tried to pick up book 2, and just when it got to the point where it was like, I cannot physically read this book and I also cannot listen to it, I knew that I was done. Like, I had to tap out. Okay, and then I read probably like one of the favorite books I've read in 2023, but it actually comes out in 2024. So I actually received an advanced reader copy of this book from NetGalley. And like I said, it comes out February 20th, and I absolutely loved it. So it follows culinary student Lexi Berman, who is 24 years old and really only has one goal in life. She wants to become the executive chef of a Michelin star restaurant to make her late mother proud. And she isn't going to let anything or anyone really get in the way of her achieving that dream. So she meets Jake Taylor by chance one evening, and he is this really kind dive bar musician who charms her with show tunes, and she makes her rare exception to her no dating rule. They spend one steamy weekend together, and then Jake leaves for LA to record his demo. And Lexi never really expects to see him again. She's just like, he's gone, he's gonna go to LA to record his demo. It was one fun weekend, and what she doesn't expect is for him to become an overnight sensation with a breakout single that is almost certainly about her famous blueberry pancakes. So as Jake's stars rises and the world speculates about the subject of his song, Lexi keeps the affair to herself, and this is a bit difficult. All her friends are like, oh, have you heard about this new artist, Jake Taylor? Let's play his music. It's so great. It's amazing. And she's like, I don't want to talk about Jake. Like, I don't like this man. I had this one weekend with him. He wrote a song about our relationship. Like, I just, no. And, you know, she feels like she's finally found her footing at her new restaurant jobs. There's a prospective new romance there for her as well, with a coworker. And then all her carefully laid out plans are thrown for a loop when Jake just shows up on her door late one night. And he's distraught. Like, he's just not doing well. So she lets him in. She tries to comfort him. And then, though she and Jake are trying to be friends, she realizes that things between them are soon reheating. But a relationship with Jake means her face being in the tabloids, withstanding cruel internet comments, and worst of all, jeopardizing her career and her dream of becoming that Michelin star chef. So as Jake's upcoming tour approaches and rumors swirl about him and another pop star, Lexi has to decide if holding on to her meticulously planned future is worth walking away from what could be the perfect recipe for love. So, like I said, this was a 3-star read for me that had me swooning from start to finish. I loved Lexi and her ambition. Like, I loved how she was so focused and lasered onto what she wanted to do. She was determined that she was going to become that Michelin star chef. She was doing everything she needed to do. And I also really loved that she did not just drop her entire life. So when she does enter into a relationship with Jake, it's not that she is going to like give up her job and just follow him around the world. And when it comes up about how he's going on tour, she's not willing to just follow him on tour from place to place. It's like, this is my job and this is what I'm doing. And I really, really respected that and loved it. How she kind of stood in who she was and what she wants. And I also love that Jake didn't really like force her or kind of bully her into following him along on his career. It was, this is what you're doing and this is what I'm doing and we'll figure out what's going on here. And she does end up making some changes and some choices, but I just love how it very much felt like she was making choices for herself as opposed to Lexi making choices for Jake. I also really loved the food references throughout. Like, I wanted blueberry pancakes soon after reading this because it's mentioned so many times and it's cute and lovable, and I especially enjoyed finding all like the show tune romances throughout the book. There's a bit of a musical theater lean in there as well, and you hear kind of lyrics or references to shows throughout, which I just absolutely loved. After that, I read The Fake Mate by Lana Ferguson, and Lana Ferguson wrote The Nanny, which I thought was like, for a debut novel, was like so good. I really enjoyed it. It was steamy, it was nice, the story was great. And then she wrote The Fake Mate, so I went into it with high hopes, and I mean, I rated it 3 stars because I finished it and it was okay, but it was, compared to the Nanny, it was just not great. And I knew it was going to be different because it is about wolves. It's about 2 wolf shifters, so I guess people who are human but can also shift into being wolves, who agree to be fake mates, so that they could, like, I don't even know, like, but essentially they just agree to be like fake dating so that one of them, the guy, can keep his job because he's an alpha and the hospital doesn't like unmated alphas as surgeons, I think. And then she just kind of like goes with it. And I think you can tell, like, I'm kind of confused, and it really is just because there's actually not a lot of explanation for anything in this book. So I did very much feel like Lana Ferguson goes into this as a paranormal romance, but she goes into it assuming that the reader understands the rules of engagement here. So there's a couple different things that they mention in the book, like the alpha status, omega, like what an alpha is and the traits that are associated with that. And the thing is, I just, as a reader, as someone who does not read paranormal romance, and also as someone who also does not read anything that kind of falls under like the omega verse, I guess it's called, I was lost. Like, I did not really understand why it was such a big deal that he was an alpha, and what traits are associated with that, and why he would be, why a hospital would potentially not want him to be there. Or they mentioned that she was an Omega, I think. So like, and there's like, oh, but like he's an Alpha and I'm an Omega, like our status, like, you know, like, and it's like, but no, I don't know what's going on. And I think once I kind of like reading it, I kind of like blocked that out, like the wolf aspects of it, and had to just read the book because it is very light and airy. But the problem is like I was confused, and like they refer to things like nodding, and I was like, what is that? Like, I don't have a clue what this is, and had to Google it, which was interesting to say the least. But it's like, Lana, you could have included like a sentence somewhere in there that explained what was going on here and helped us along the path. And I think the thing is, I kept reading because I was hoping we were going to get some explanation at some point, but we just never did. So it's a 3-star read for me. It is still kind of steamy. It's interesting, but it was just kind of there. Like, it very much was like a middle of the road book. I actually don't know if I would be recommending it highly to other people. So it is a good book, but unless someone told me that they like paranormal romance involving wolves, I'm probably not recommending this to anyone. To be totally honest, I would recommend The Nanny over this, but to each their own. I know some people loved it because they love paranormal romance. And then I also read Kiss Her Once for Me by Alison Cochrun. I loved this book. Like, and honestly, I've hit the point where I'm like, Alison Cochrun cannot miss when it comes to these novels. I love The Charm Offensive. I honestly think I've mentioned that book about 4 separate times so far on this channel, but never really like gone in depth about it. But Kiss Her Once for Me is another book by the same author, and it's a festive romantic comedy about a woman who fakes an engagement with her landlord only to end up falling for his sister. And, you know, 1 year ago, Ellie had her dream job in animation, and on Christmas Eve she has this like kind of idyllic meet cute with a woman in a bookstore, and they go through a full kind of night of doing a whole bunch of different things. So they go like to the bookstore, they go to a diner, they go back to this woman's Airstream, like they do a whole bunch of things, and it's just super cute and super romantic. And Ellie is like, I have found my soulmate. And then the next morning there's a betrayal or a misunderstanding, and Ellie leaves, and she never sees this woman named Jack again. Fast forward a year, she's fake engaged to her landlord so that he can get money from a will, and she arrives at like his family's house for the holidays, and they're like, oh, well, his sister Jacqueline's gonna come, Jacqueline's gonna be here. And then when Jacqueline finally arrives, she realizes that it's actually Jack. So the two of them have a couple moments where they're like chatting with each other, or they're hiding. Of course, everyone's like, what, to her fiance, they're like, what do you mean you're engaged? Like, where did this come from? And Ellie and Jack kind of really struggle with figuring out like how to move forward, because Ellie is engaged to her brother, to Jack's brother, but Jack is still very much in love with Ellie. Ellie's in love with Jack. And one thing I love is how like the communication between these two women, like they do not have miscommunication as something that can happen with them, because Jack is like, we are not doing that. We are going to use our words. We are going to talk this through. You are not going to run away. We are going to communicate. And it's great because they end up figuring out what they both want and where they go from there. And honestly, like, Alison Cochrun can take all my money when it comes to these books, because they are so good and so well written, and every single time I'm just loving all of the characters. Like even Jack, like even Jack's brother, like I loved him as much as like he was getting kind of jilted and was not about to get get married. I loved every single moment of it, and I highly recommend this book to anyone. It is kind of a Christmas romance, holiday romance, but you can read it now. It's still good. But yeah, I liked it. And then I read Lovelight Farms by B.K. Borison. So this is about two best friends who fake date to reach their holiday happily ever after. So it's about Stella Bloom, who has this dream of a magical winter wonderland on Lovelight Farms, which is the Christmas tree farm that she owns and operates year round. And for the past year, things have just been like really weird for her. So there's a pasture of dead trees, there's a family of raccoons that has just like taken up residence in the Santa barn. Things are just going wrong, things are disappearing, like it's just super, super weird. So she's not making money. She's losing it. In fact, she's cut her salary entirely and has like avoided conversations with her team about it as well, because she doesn't want them to be impacted by it. So she decides to enter an Instagram contest, and it's a contest put on for $100,000 from Evelyn St. James, who is this big Instagram influencer who at the end of the day will bring her both exposure if she wins, but also the money, which will help her with keeping the farm afloat. So she scours Evelyn's Instagram profile and figures out all the things that Evelyn really likes when she sees people, and realizes that she really has a soft spot for couples. So Stella recruits her best friend Luca to pretend to be her boyfriend for the time that Evelyn St. James is on the farm, and the two of them get kind of like the whole town on board as well, that they're actually a couple, and they go ahead trying to pretend and save this farm. And along the way, they end up kind of like falling in love with each other, like as it happens. And for Luca, fake dating his best friend is the best Christmas present he could ever receive. For Stella, she's trying to guard herself. So she's like, I love this. I love everything that's going on here, and I love this fake relationship that they have, but she just also is trying to protect herself because she thinks it's going to end after a week. It's just cute. And I feel like I've said that so many times, but it's just a really lovely story that's really heartwarming, and I loved hearing about the farm, and I loved hearing about the other people who work there for her as well. And honestly, I read this and then realized that it's actually book 1 in a series, and immediately downloaded book 2 and book 3 because I just really loved the world and how kind of wholesome and nice it was. It was just a great read. So if it's not blatantly obvious, this is another 3-star read from me. I loved it. 3.5, maybe like 3.75. Like we're getting really close to 4 here with me. But I loved Lovelight Farms, and also the rest is diving into the rest of the series, which I probably will do in January. Speaking of January, what am I looking forward to reading? So I feel like I've said this for the past few months, but This Could Be Us by Kennedy Ryan is pretty high up on that list. I have an advanced copy of that, which I just need to sit down and power through, as well as Come and Get It by Kiley Reid. I yet again have not read that book, and I don't know what's holding me back from it. I think I'm just so excited for it that I'm almost like scared to start it, because then I'll have to finish it, which is very different than my feelings towards Iron Flame. But like I devoured that book as soon as I got it. But yeah, Come and Get It. This Could Be Us is on my list. I'm also going to read On the Plus Side by Jenny L. Howe. My book club book for the month is actually Red Queen by Victoria Aveyard, which I read years ago. Like I read these books when it first came out. So I'm actually really excited and really enjoying diving back into it. Because like I said, I remember reading, I think I read the first 3 books in the series and then didn't read the 4th. So as soon as we picked it, I was like, oh, I know this story. And then I picked it up and started reading a couple pages of it, and I was like, I do know this story. And I find myself kind of like jumping ahead, and it's all coming back to me, but it's just nice to kind of revisit a world and a story that I already read years ago from a different perspective. I'm probably going to finish the Lovelight series, and then I'm actually filming this in January, like January 2nd. So I've already read 2 books for the year so far. They're part of a hockey romance series. So I will probably finish the series. There's 4 books in the series. We're doing like a book a day at this point. With it, so I'm probably going to read the remaining 2 books in that series. Yeah, just light and airy for January. It's just, we're going off of vibes at this point. Like, we're not even, I don't know, my TBR pile, I find that I'm saying things that I want to read and then I'm actually not getting to them, and they're actually like almost falling to the bottom of my list as soon as I say that I want to read a book. So I don't know if I'm going to be vocalizing what I want to be reading moving forward. I'm also considering changing the format of how I do these as well. Partly because if you watch my bullet journal video, I am still tossing around the idea of doing a reading journal. It's January 2nd. I still have a couple days to figure that out. Or like a month, I guess, before I have to fully pull the trigger on it. But leaning towards a reading journal, in which case I might include my reading journal setup with my, and my reviews with my, what am I saying? Can you tell I'm tired? If I set up a reading journal, I might include doing my reviews with my setup. Do you know what I'm saying? Does that make sense? I don't know. I feel like I need to go back to bed. Honestly, I don't know why I'm so tired. But yeah, that's it. We're losing it. I'm so sorry. I'm just clearly losing my mind right now. Let me know in the comments if you have read any of these books, if you have loved any of these books, what you read in December, what you're looking forward to reading in January, if you have any tips other than sleep for how I can start feeling better and, you know, string together a full sentence and not be absolutely loopy. Yeah, just until then. Oh, God. Until next time, have a great day.